Okay, you don't have double vision, so don't start running to your optometrist and saying, oh my gosh, I'm seeing two of everything, because you are seeing two of everything. Although I'm being generous in counting the machine on the right as one complete, because it obviously isn't. That is the donor machine that was used to bring two machines together to make one for Juliet that comes out of Texas. That was a real challenge because the CL8s are very rare. Seldom, if ever, do you see them. When you come across one, it's usually in the condition that you see the one on the right end right now. And it didn't come as you see it now. It came as a complete machine, but both machines were missing something. And the one on the right is the one that Juliet sent me. And as we discussed the project, it was apparent that I didn't have all the parts that I needed in order to complete a machine for her and get it sent back to Texas so that she could begin to enjoy it. I had to source a CL8. And the task was even more difficult than that because I was determined, knowing that there's two different CL8 models, one that comes with a 1 amp motor, which is the one you see in pieces on the right, and that's the one that was sent to me by Juliet, and the one on the left, which is the donor machine, that came with a very, very rare 1.5 amp motor. Let me zoom in so you can actually see the nomenclature plate and see the difference as far as the power in these two machines. So you can see on the right here, the machine, again, that Juliet sent to me in the beginning. It has a 1 amp motor. You can see that on the right side, the second line up, all the way to the right there. It says 1 and then amp. And again, I don't know if you remember the story behind, okay, what's the big deal about the CL8? Why wouldn't Juliet be content with a 21A or 21E or a 19E or a 19 Special or one of the other really cool green machines? Well, the simple answer to that is her mother had an incredible original CL8 as well. Again, very rare machines. And it was lost in a fire. And so when Juliet sourced that machine that you saw in the last shot on the right side there, she was determined, and I shared her determination in finding another CL8 so we could bring the two machines together and have a fully working, fully functional CL8 again, just like the one that her mom lost in the fire. So we have accomplished that. Plus, the bonus is Juliet's going to end up with a CL8 that has the largest motor within the Husqvarna family. The green machines, or any other machine for that matter, that very coveted 1.5 amp motor. And that was a personal quest on my part in sourcing not just another CL8, which was tough by itself, but sourcing one that had that very difficult to find 1.5 amp motor. And yes, if you're already talking, the king is out, because obviously we have a Swedish beauty on this new workbench of mine, and we've got to recognize that. The other challenge that Juliet had is the case that she had with this original machine right here was in pretty bad shape. You can't see it in this shot real well, but you can see that it's missing one of the locking clasps over here. It's got paint on it. Some of the leather is torn. It's just in a messy state. And as I looked at this final product of this CL8 on the left side there, I thought, you gotta have a case that has that same wow factor leading up to them actually seeing the machine. And so I sourced a case to go with her new machine. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this space up a little bit, and you can say goodbye to what I'll affectionately call a half of a Husqvarna, the one on the right, and also get this case out of the way as well. And again, this case, I'm hoping you can see what I'm holding up because I forgot to turn my screen around, but it's got paint marks and all kinds of other gobbledygook on it, so that just wasn't going to cut it. Wanting to give a complete, gorgeous, drop-dead machine and case back to Juliet to go back to Texas. So All right, so give me a second. I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup in this area and get Juliet's machine turned around as well, so you can see it from the front, not just the back. There we go. That's fairly good, I think. We'll get rid of her case because I don't think we need that. We'll put the watchful king right behind Juliet's machine, so he's keeping an eye on things. And I'm going to angle that machine, I think, just a little bit as well, so that you're able to see the stitch offs a little bit more easily. And I think I might have to make a little adjustment to the foot control as well, but we'll figure it all out. I wanted to go through that demonstration just to show you kind of the totality, the project, if you will, and what had to be done in order to get us to this point. So, all right, so let's get over more in line with where we're going to be sewing off. And yes, the temperatures are starting to get kind of cool in Wisconsin, so I am cheating, and I have a little ceramic heater down on the floor there to keep my Tootsies warm. So what's the big difference between this rare CL8 and the 21As and 21Es that you see very, very commonly on eBay and other places? Well, number one, it's a straight stitch only machine. It doesn't take any cams. It doesn't have any cams engineered into it, but it has some of the same cool features that all of us have come to love on these green machines. And that is, this bobbin area over here does a number of things. Number one, let me turn my screen around here. Number one, it gives you that wonderful feature where when you're looking to wind a bobbin, you don't have to go through a series of steps in order to disengage that clutch so you can wind a bobbin. You simply pull this out and you apply a bobbin to it, which I have in the machine right now, but use your imagination and you apply a bobbin to this and then push on the foot control, and you're not going to see any movement of that needle. The other feature, I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, that I was excited to point out as well, is that when you actually pull this out and leave this out on the bobbin winder, you're going to be able to reduce that motor speed so that it's only 1/5 the speed that it normally is. So if you've got some real tight corners to sew, or some difficult turns to make, or some people argue, and I quite honestly haven't found it to be true, but we'll let their argument stand, and that is that they argue that if you go to this slow gear by pulling this out, like I just did, that it's also going to give you the capacity to sew through heavier grade materials and more layers. I've tested it, and I haven't found that to be the case, but you know what? If it works for them, then it's a feature that they can certainly apply and use it as they see fit. But I'm going to go ahead and push it back in so that we are sewing at full speed. And go ahead and get my camera shot out just a little bit. So obviously over here, right above this crest where it says Sweden Rotary, we've got our little knob right there with a white dot on it that is designed to lower the feed dogs. You might be doing darning work, or you might be doing some freehand embroidery, and you don't want those feed dogs to be engaged. It's so easy to rotate that knob, drop them, and then rotate it right back up, and then you're back to business. Now this is also an engineering flaw in these Swedish beauties, because the components that allow you to do this are underneath the machine, where all that old oil tends to settle. And you remember me talking about the motors that are like vacuums that suck all the dirt, junk, and garbage towards that direction. Well, this happens to be in the path of that as well. And oftentimes, if you have a Swedish beauty that's been sitting a long time and you don't use the feed dog changes as far as doing freehand embroidery, you're going to find that that knob eventually won't turn, and there's a series of steps you have to go through to fix it. And I can certainly offer some suggestions, or you can send your machine in to me and I'll take care of it for you, because it does require quite a bit of work. Right here is our stitch length control. There's no stitch width because it's simply a straight stitch machine. And the control on this is kind of interesting. I'm going to turn my screen around just to make sure that I don't shift too much, hopefully, as far as the camera shot. On the 21 series machines and the Type 21 and all the other ones, this is free moving. You move it all the way to the highest position to sew in reverse, which is true of this machine too, but they're not spring loaded. This CL8 is spring loaded. When you lift it, that spring is going to pull it right back down to that lowest point again. Now you might be saying, well, wait a second, if I want to have a stitch length, you know, somewhere in the 1 to 2 range, do I need to hold this the whole time? No, you just screw this cap in on the end and it'll press against there and hold it in place for you. But I love the fact that it goes all the way down, because that's where I'm going to be sewing most of the time, in the number 4 setting, which gives you probably about a 6 to 8 stitch per inch stitch pattern. So I love it that it goes right back to where I want it to go, and if I want to go in reverse, I push it up and hold it, and I just let go, and boom, we're right back down there again. This machine also is going to have that jam-free Raceway, which again is a feature that is very unique to the Husqvarna line. It basically, I've shown in other videos where it's got some capacity to have movement in and out, and the result of that is that you can run all kinds of thread through this machine, and I've never had one jam, so I think their claim is pretty trustworthy. All right, I'm going to lock it right here because I know this video is going long. And I'm going to flip my screen around. Let's do a little bit of sewing on this CL8. That's really what you're patiently waiting for, is saying, Scott, you're going to sew eventually, aren't you? I mean, you're telling us all this cool stuff, and that's wonderful, but we want to see what Juliet's CL8 can do. And I've learned my lesson from the last video. I'm taking off my clod hoppers so that they're not going to get in the way. I'm going to sew barefoot, which hopefully all of you know, with cold cement floors in the basement, which is where I have my workshop located, is no small sacrifice. All right, let me get my chair moved around a little bit. The first thing I'm going to sew off on, and you've seen this before, I've done it in a couple sew-offs because I love this leather. If you look at the grain on the back of it, you can just see that it's crying out and saying, yeah, go ahead and try to get through me, buddy. You're not going to be able to do it. Not even with your Swedish beauties are you going to be able to get through it. It's not going to happen. So we're going to see about that, because I know what my machines can do, and I know what Juliet's machine can do. So I'm going to slide this under the presser foot without any further ado, and we're going to zip down this one layer of vegetable tan leather, which again, granted, isn't going to challenge this machine a whole lot. Here we go. Listen to that machine run. I mean, you have to listen to hear it run. It runs that quiet and that smooth. And again, this is the larger of the two motors. This is a 1.5 amp motor powering this, and yet it runs just whisper quiet. Now, burgundy thread, which I am in love with, does not show up real well on brown. I get it. But if you turn it both ways and I kind of pull it back, you can see that this machine has done just a spectacular job going through this single layer of vegetable tan leather. So let's double our stakes. Let's go ahead and go up to 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that in the camera or not, but we're talking about 6 to 8 ounces of vegetable tan leather. We did this on Lori's 201-2, and we're doing it on this machine as well. And then if you remember, I finger cranked Donna's machine going through the same number of layers of this vegetable tan leather. Let's see how this Husqvarna does. Here we go. it does great as long as I get my foot on the foot control, or in this case my sock, which slipped off a little bit at the beginning. Oh my gosh. There we got her. All right. All right, so here we've got 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. As I pull it back, you can see even burgundy against brown, the spacing, the formation, everything about this stitch is just absolutely gorgeous and spot on. It's absolutely gorgeous. And as we look down here at these lock stitches, they're equally gorgeous as well. All right, so I'm going to keep on marching forward here. What we're going to go on to now is we're going to go on to our Old Faithful U.S. Army grade canvas. This stuff is the thick of thick, and there's nothing lightweight about it at all. And in this case, I'm going to do something a little bit fun. I'm going to see if I can snap these 2 pieces, or actually the single piece, and make it a snap together piece, almost like you would do on a tent. There we go. There we got it. Now the only challenge is I'm going to have to be really careful when I sew through this because of these grommets. These grommets can very quickly mess up a machine, even one like this, because we're talking about solid steel. And also we're not talking about a few layers, we're talking about 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Just as soon as we snap this together, we set a monumental task for this Husqvarna. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully line it up so we don't have a machine malfunction, and we'll see if we can sneak past this grommet. I hope we can. Again, 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Here we go. I don't know if you saw it, but I had to kind of dance around that grommet a little bit. You'll see it when you look at the final stitch. That was awkward. But no bad sounds, no crashing, no breaking or anything like that. So I'm a happy camper, and I know Juliet is too as she's watching this video. So there we went through it. You can look at the end again. 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, and it just sewed through it like it was nothing. The stitch quality, the formation, everything about it is just absolutely spot on. And if we turn it over, we've got an equally gorgeous lock stitch as well. And you heard the machine. Once I got my sock firmly planted on that speed control, it just mowed through it with no trouble whatsoever. So I'm very pleased with the final outcome of this CL8 with that 1.5 amp motor. It does a spectacular job, and I know Juliet is going to have a lot of fun sewing with this machine. So I'm going to bring my camera angle out a little bit. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on. There, we got it. All right, turn my screen around, and hopefully you can see me. So this has been a real challenging project, and I'm glad that it's finally finished, because when it comes to taking 2 machines and having to piecemeal them together, and even the earlier on process of sourcing another CL8 was not an easy task. But Juliet is such a trooper and has been so patient through this process. I'm glad that it turned out as well as it did. And I wanted to take another opportunity to remind all of you that with our 2 milestones of hitting 4,000 plus subscribers, and then also we have more than 1 million unique views on this channel now. That's pretty doggone impressive, considering our topic is a niche topic of vintage sewing machines. So I want to remind you, I'm wanting to give away a sewing machine, but I need you to get involved. And on the YouTube channel where I have that picture of the desert rose. Remember that desert rose I talked about that I brought home from Saudi Arabia? It's right on the main screen, and also in the heading it says post here. That's where I want you to post your basically your essay talking about why you love vintage sewing machines and how this channel is significant to you. What does it mean? When I closed things down in Appleton, if it had gone dark and never came back up again, what impact would that have on you as a lover of vintage sewing machines? I'm not looking to get patted on the back, but just to know that you can articulate your passion for this channel. I mean, why have a channel if you're not, as a subscriber, passionate about it and enjoy it and get excited about it? And I know two people have already done an excellent job of articulating that, and that is Lori and also Janie. They've written some great things, and I know a number of you have liked those comments already, and I know they're going to be recruiting all their friends and family to come to their posts so that they can like it, because again, come November 15th, whoever has the most likes is going to win that sewing machine that I'm going to give away. So the end of a long road with this CL8 heading towards Juliet down in Texas is finally over. I'm hoping I can still get to the post office today, get it packed up and get it shipped off, but if not, I'll definitely try to get it out in the next couple of days. So Juliet, your machine is finally coming home. And if your mom happens to watch this video, it's so neat, the inspiration that you've given your daughter, the passion, the drive to source a machine like this, and then to get that machine to me so we could make it whole again and complete, basically taking it out of the ashes from that awful fire and saying, there it is. It's still alive and well, and it's going to be sewing for our family for many, many generations. So stay tuned, get your essays posted. Time is running out. If you want to win a free vintage sewing machine, you got to get your essay posted. Again, underneath that video on Facebook that has the picture of my desert rose, that sand thing. Okay? All right? Stay tuned. Stay contacted and connected to the channel. Get involved with posts. You know, let me know what your thoughts are, ideas for improving the channel. Let's not be satisfied with, oh my gosh, we hit 4,000 subscribers. Oh my gosh, we hit 1 million plus unique views. Oh my gosh, we're in almost 200 countries around the world. That was yesterday. What are we going to do today? And I already know I'm not going to do it on my own. It's going to take your help. So let me know your thoughts, get involved, and if you're looking for a special Christmas present for yourself or someone else, remember, I have a large inventory of machines waiting to be restored that will meet your sewing needs. Okay? All right. Thanks again for staying tuned, and thanks for being a subscriber.